Have you ever seen a flying machine disguised as a boat? Because that is where we are in this, the 36th America's Cup campaign. This is Britannia. She's taken 90,000 design hours to design, 46,000 construction hours to build, and she's made up of 18,000 individual parts. That is what goes into an America's Cup race boat in this day and age. And be in no doubt, this boat will fly.
British innovation is at the heart of the America's Cup. Many British pioneers have tried and failed to win sport's oldest international trophy. To create history and win the America's Cup, you need to be bold with your design. A team willing to push the limits in the challenge of a lifetime. This is Britannia, the yacht to bring back the Cup for Britain.
Welcome to Auckland, New Zealand, and to audiences everywhere. Remember, wherever you are in the world, it's gin o'clock somewhere, or in our case, it's Nightimber. A Nightimber breakfast awaits shortly for all of us, and indeed for Britannia, who's going to be christened in a matter of moments. The key protagonists who've made this day possible sitting alongside me. We have Ben Ainsley, the team skipper and principal, Grant Simmer, CEO of INEOS Team UK, Nick Holroyd, our lead designer, and also joining us is Laura Clark. Laura, thank you very much for being here, the British High Commissioner, Ambassador, I should say, to New Zealand. That's not one that you want to get wrong. Sorry, Laura. Ben, first of all, a huge day ahead, momentous this occasion. We've been waiting for it for an awful long time. How excited are you finally to get sailing out there?
Yeah, we can't wait to get the boat in the water and get going. You know, we've got to race in 8 weeks' time in the Christmas race, so we better be ready. And the team has come a long way in the last 4 years. You know, Grant, Nick, and the rest of the team have done an incredible job to get us to this point. And now, yeah, as I say, it's time to get the boat out there and really work it up to get maximum potential when we start racing.
Grant, you've won 4 America's Cups before. How well prepared do you feel we are for this one? We've had to go through a COVID-19 outbreak. There's been all sorts of restrictions and rules put in place, but we've had to overcome them.
Yeah, it's been a very unusual cup. And the boats are unusual as you look at Britannia down here, but we're in pretty good shape. 58 days to go, as Ben says, till the start of racing. Real focus in those last days to get ready for racing.
Nick, what about the design of this boat? What makes her so different to everything else that's been before?
I mean, these are big, powerful boats, and they're on the ragged edge. So, I mean, that's always an incredibly exciting arena to work in. Yeah, the team has just come on in leaps and bounds, I think, in the last 2 years. Our kind of ability to take a concept and develop that, the conversation between the design and the sailing, and then the execution from the procurement and build guys has been absolutely fantastic.
Laura, you have the unenviable task of christening Britannia a little later on in a matter of moments. What does it mean to have a British team here?
Oh, it's really exciting, and I think particularly given what a difficult year we've had, nothing is straightforward in a COVID era, and the teams have all worked so hard, so it's fantastic to now have the Britannia team out here in New Zealand, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing that beautiful boat out on the water.
Sailing is a huge cultural part, isn't it, of New Zealand? Do the hostile crowd know how much Ben thrives on pressure? Do they? Do they understand that?
I think they will be feeling quietly confident as well. So it's shaping up to be the most brilliant competition. The America's Cup is huge here in New Zealand, particularly here in Auckland, the city of sails. So it's going to be the most fabulous competition. But I, for one, am very excited about the prospects of the UK team.
Good, right answer. Thanks, Laura. It's taken, as you can see, a phenomenal effort to get Britannia to here. I have a list of what else came with her in various shipping containers. Sailors, engineers, designers, shore team, marketeers, wives, girlfriends, a dog in one case, a trampoline in another, which is ours, admittedly, don't ask. One person we don't have here yet, though, is Jim Ratcliffe, but he did send this message to the team ahead of today.
Key messages, I think there's a great line in that song that they sing on the last night of the proms. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. So we're all extremely hopeful, Ben, as the captain, that you're going to finish by ruling the waves in Auckland and winning the trophy. So we're all going to be behind you. I mean, we recognise that it's a sport at the end of the day and there are no guarantees, but we're all very hopeful and very excited.
Thanks, Jim, for what I think was a vote of confidence chucked in with a little bit of expectation. What do you reckon? Ben, first of all, Jim said no guarantees there, but how important is preparation? I know you felt this way in previous Olympic campaigns and also previous America's Cup campaigns. So how important is it to feel that when you get to that start line, you've done absolutely everything that you can?
That's key for all of us in the team. We've got a huge amount of experience. We keep talking about how many Cups Grant's done as our CEO, but the whole team, there's a lot of experience there. And there's that great saying, isn't there? Luck is preparation looking for an opportunity. And I think we very much subscribe to that in this team. So we've got to go through, we've got to get the boat in the water, we've got to go through the commissioning, and we've got to be methodical in those steps, but also we've got to keep pushing, because for sure the team that wins this competition will be that's pushed the hardest and it's got the maximum potential from the boat.
Questions coming in on our iPad here. Thank you, everybody who's been getting in touch with us via our social channels as well. And one question here from, there we go, from our chairman, Rob Nevin. Maybe I'll throw this one to Grant. Given the complex situation and quarantine for the team, he says, how is morale holding up and what are you doing to keep it high other than throwing parties? This is our first party.
Georgie, we're not going to have many parties, but 14
that's
days in
disappointing.
quarantine realigns your thought and gets you focused on the run-up to the racing. And I think morale is incredibly high in the team. Everyone's glad to be in Auckland, to be in this environment that we're in here, to be in a great base, and to see our new yacht roll out after months and months of hard work from everyone involved. So the morale's super high, and just looking forward to getting it sailing.
I'm still disappointed from the not many more parties line. Nick, what about the specifics in terms of the design of the boat? Talk to us about bustles.
So the bustle is the kind of narrow canoe body type thing underneath the hull. I guess we've taken that concept and pushed it to, I guess, its logical extreme. It has benefits sort of through the takeoff and both aerodynamically when the boat's flying as well. So yeah, it's fairly extreme, but yeah, I think we've taken that concept and pushed it to its limit.
How important is it to take these sort of risks in a cup campaign like this when you know the opposition are going to be tough as anything?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Team New Zealand taking them on home waters. It doesn't really get any tougher than that in the sport of sailing. So we have got to push the boundaries, and I think with this boat, we have pushed it pretty bloody hard. I don't think we left much on the table, and the whole team share that philosophy that we've got to go for it if we're going to win this thing.
One in from George Ratcliffe. Thank you, George, for your email. He says, how early on will you start to understand if any of the boats are significantly ahead or behind in terms of performance? Grant?
Well, we're going to, the first racing we do is the Christmas Cup between the 17th and the 20th of December, and we'll know a lot about the opposition there. We're expecting the Kiwis to be racing in that. We may not be in our final configuration for that racing, but that'll be a really strong indication. And then the other thing that's going to happen is the Italians have got a new boat in their shed, the Kiwis have got a new boat in their shed. We saw American Magic sailing for the first time yesterday. So within a matter of weeks, we will have 4 new boats ripping around out here. We'll get a bit of a feel for performance over the next month, I would say.
Okay, Nick, one in here from Jennifer Scott who says, is there one main thing giving the team sleepless nights? You had a few of those back in Portsmouth.
Other than Nick.
Yeah, quite.
Look, I mean, we set a date for this a year ago, and there's been a fair number of sleepless nights through that process. The great thing about a day like today is achieving those milestones. The boat's on time, it's exactly on weight. We just strive to control the things we can control, and keep pushing.
Yeah, an interesting one that you say that, because Lord Grade says on our chat here, what do we know of the opposition? And actually, how much do we care about what they're doing? I mean, we're going to have to react accordingly as things move forward. But right now, what do we know of them, and how much does it matter?
Well, it's a great question. Ultimately, we've got to beat them all to get there, to get to the final and to win the cup. And so we monitor the opposition very closely. In a technical game like this, we want to make sure we don't miss anything in the developments of the teams. But as you just said, at the same time, we've got to make sure we've got our own house in order and we maximise that potential of the boat. So it's a balancing act, really. But in that technical game, you have to make sure that you're right at the cutting edge and trying to lead the way.
One of these, and I'm sure everyone's feeling this, Jamie Sheldon, the Commodore of the Royal Yacht Squadron, asked this question: when are we going to see this actually on the water and sailed on?
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, okay. How much preparation, for people that don't know, how much preparation goes into getting Britannia onto the water and out there, and all the things you have to do before you actually try to push her?
A lot. I mean, we've got 100 people here in the organisation. It's about half of that team are involved with getting the boat on and off the water. So for a 4 or 5 hour sailing session, it's a 10 or 12 hour operation. And the maintenance that goes into this boat through the night, our systems engineers led by Andy McLean, I mean, those guys literally are running 24/7 program. So it's a huge effort.
Nick, have you ever seen anything like this in terms of the boat design and how these things are going to line up when it actually comes to racing?
Oh no, I mean, it's a very unique class. And the American one of the great things about the America's Cup, from my perspective, is just the complexity and the detail and the systems and the software that underpin all this stuff. We sit here and we look at the physical boat, but the effort and all these other areas that goes into it, and that just keeps kind of growing exponentially. The boats are becoming that much more sophisticated.
How important is it as well to keep a level head during the next? We've got 6 months of this ahead of us now, hopefully, potentially. So how important is it to keep a level head and equilibrium throughout this entire campaign? Not get too excited in those high moments and not get too depressed about it in the lower ones.
It's a really good point. I mean, we're no bones about it. We're here to win the cup. And until we do that, we haven't really achieved anything. So we might win a few races, but we certainly aren't going to be flipping somersaults. And we're going to have some tough days, for sure. We're going to have some tough days. And as a team, we've got to really, like you say, find that equilibrium where we're all supporting one another, whether it's sailing team, design team, shore team, the whole organisation. We're going to need to back each other up, and that's the makings of a strong team.
Okay, thanks, guys. We wish you so much success for what's to come in the future. Everything crossed. Let's take you to the dockside, shall we? And join Freddie Carr, our roving reporter, who's down there and ready to speak to us. Freddie, live your best life. Take it away. Have fun with the audience.
Thanks, Georgie. Thank you very much. I'm down by the dockside next to Britannia, which is looking absolutely glorious in this morning sunshine. And looking equally as glorious in his Bellstaff kit is our tactician, Giles Scott. Giles, how are you feeling? What do you make of the boat?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great day to be here. The boat is looking awesome. Got very used to looking in the shed. It's it's good to see it out in the sunshine for sure.
And mate, you're allegedly one of the intelligent sailors. You're involved in the design loop. You're involved in the design team. How much do you think the sailors have had an input into the boat, working along with the designers? How does that work?
Yeah, we've had a massive input. The amount of hours that we've sailed this boat virtually, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but we may not sail this boat on the water out here as much as we have done in the sim. So yeah, we've been incredibly involved in the design and signing off the whole shape of this. So we are certainly in this with the designers for sure.
And mate, a massive 12 months. It was 12 months ago that we launched RB1 in Portsmouth. We sailed in Portsmouth. We set up a base in Cagliari. We went to our winter training camp. Global pandemic hit. 2 World Series events were cancelled. We built this boat. We moved to Auckland. We sailed in the UK. I mean, a phenomenal 12 months, a phenomenal effort from the whole team. What's it look like? And you throw into that your Olympic sailing that's got pushed back a year. A bit of a full-on year, really.
Yeah, it has, and for everyone, it's been incredibly challenging. And with the outbreak of COVID, there's just a whole realm of uncertainty that evolved in everything really. And it's great to be here. It's great to see the boat that come through that. And I think now it's all about looking forward. We want to get out there. We want to commission this boat and start pushing it as hard as we can. And I think that's the most exciting thing. And yes, we haven't lined up against any of our competitors yet, but I think that kind of makes the next period all that little bit more exciting for us.
And is that weird for you? I know the sailing team were really looking forward to getting into the World Series events, particularly in Pompey in front of the home crowd, and having those 2 events taken away from us, so we couldn't really get into our pattern of racing and our race routines. Is that a concern?
I suppose yes, it is a concern, but ultimately all the teams are in the same boat there, and that's just something that we're going to have to deal with for sure. As the guys up on the decking said, racing's only 8 weeks away. We've got so little time to get this boat commissioned, get it race ready, and a big part of that as well is us as sailors. We have to be ready to race in 8 weeks too. So yeah, it's all on, and it's going to be a big push from everyone.
So Christmas race 2 months from now. What do the next 2 months look like for the team, other than a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of hard work? What's going to be happening on the water? When you say commissioning, what do you mean by that?
Well, we need to get the boat race ready. There's very few parts on this boat that we've taken off boat 1. So there's an awful lot of, there's a big checklist that we need to get through to be able to push the boat to its maximum potential. So we'll commission it, and then we'll slowly work up from there, start putting it around a race course, and we'll have new iterations of important kit to go on the boat in the in the coming months. So yeah, there's an awful lot to get through, an awful lot of hard work that has been done and needs to continue to be done. And I think for us now, the focus over the next 6 months is really centered around this boat, making sure it's as quick as it can be, it's reliable, and we're able to push it to its maximum on the water.
Very good. Giles, thanks for catching up with us. Let's take a little walk and go and see who else we can find in the crowd. I've spotted the animal, Andrew McLean, systems lead. How you doing, mate? Have you had any sleep?
Not this week, or last week.
16 days straight, I hear. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Vivian, have you seen Dad since you came out the hotel?
Yeah.
Oh, he's lying. Animal's lying. You've been going home early every night, haven't you, mate? Animal, you've been at more of these boat launches than many people I know, and everyone talks about the technical development in the Cup. And you were on the journey with us in 17. Just how big a jump is it from the catamarans that we saw in 17 to Britannia, the boat that we're launching today?
Well, I guess, you and me were sailing out here when we were kids, like 20-something years ago.
Don't give the age away, mate. Come on, I'm still 21 in my own head.
Technology's moved on. It's through the roof in the sport at the moment. And you see it in the guys here, like the level of talent and skills is totally different to what we were used to when we were growing up, I guess.
And I guess it looks super slick and clean from the outside that we're really proud of. And you're one of the privileged few that know what it looks like under the bonnet more than most. Just what does it look like down there? It's been sort of likened to something that would go to space. Is that true? Is it that crazy downstairs?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's been a lot of development, both sort of simulation and shore-based, so it'd be good to get it on the water and get it proved out.
And the jump from our first boat, our test boat, as we launched and sailed this year, and we're going to race in the World Series events. That was very much a proving boat and a test boat for us. And it's just a case of refining into RB2, or are there huge developments on this boat as well?
We're always developing. There's big development, big jump from 1 to 2, and I think there'll be big jumps from here to the start of the America's Cup. So it's a lot to do.
Very good. Vivi, I hope you get to hang out with Daddy a bit more soon once we've got this boat sailing. And you look even smarter than Giles in your Belstaff kit. That is a proper cool T-shirt. Right, very good, very good. Well, I think Ben's down by the dock now, and I think we should get the show on the road and get this beautiful boat christened.
Thanks, Freddie. Folks, let's get this show on the road. A big thank you to all of our team and supporters, both here in New Zealand and joining us from around the world. And particular, a huge thanks to Jim Ratcliffe, to Jim, John and Andy, and all of the team at INEOS, both in the UK and around the world. Your support of this team and this programme has been unbelievable. We're incredibly proud of this boat, as you can imagine, the whole team. And you know, we've got a few people around who've been involved with some cups. Grant, our CEO, this is his 11th cup, as we like to keep reminding him, but some huge experience, and I think we all feel that this is a very, very special boat. I was saying to Nick, our chief designer, the other day, how proud he and the design team should be for creating such a beautiful looking machine. And she certainly looks like a rocket, and let's hope she sails like a rocket. A big thank you to Jason Carrington and his team at Carrington Boats. There's 90,000 man-hours of design and manufacturing gone into this boat in the midst of a global pandemic. That's no mean feat. So a huge effort from them and from the whole team. A big thank you to the Royal Yacht Squadron, Royal Yacht Squadron Racing, Commodore Jamie Sheldon, Bertie Bickett and the whole team at the squadron. We're incredibly proud to be representing your club. To all of our suppliers and partners, again, you know, huge thank you. It's a long list, but you know that your support is hugely appreciated, and we literally would not be here without you. I think now we've got eight weeks. We talked about it earlier. We've got 8 weeks until the start of the Christmas race. So we've got to crack on with this. We've got to make every second count, getting this boat on the water through the Christmas race and then into the Challenger Series. But as a team, we're hugely excited to get this boat, Britannia, in the water, get sailing, and get racing. So it's time to get on with the christening. We've got a very special lady who Jim and ourselves were very keen could do this christening for us virtually from home in Scotland. A lady called Elaine Wiley, who is the founder of the Daily Mile, which is an organisation that has now got 3 million children around the world exercising over a mile a day, be that running or walking. So phenomenal achievement. I think that passion and commitment is what we share in the team and why we're delighted that Elaine was able to do this. And we also have Laura Clark, our UK High Commissioner to New Zealand, who's very kindly agreed to come and physically do the christening for us, spray the champagne, spray the night timber onto the boat. And Laura and her team have been really hugely helpful getting us into New Zealand and helping us be here. So thank you to you and your team. So now we'll hand over to Elaine quickly.
Thank you, Ben. It's a huge privilege to be the godmother of this magnificent boat. And I would like to thank Jim, Ben and everyone at INEOS Team UK for giving me such an honour. Standing here beside this iconic masterpiece of Scottish engineering, the Forth Bridge, brings to mind some of the Scots who have competed for the America's Cup, or the Auld Mug, as it's affectionately called during its 170-year history. In 1899, Charlie Barr, a Scottish fisherman, was the first British person to win it, but for the Americans, just as our own skipper Ben did in 2013. Most famously, Sir Thomas Lipton, the Glaswegian entrepreneur, tried to win the America's Cup 3 times, and despite declaring himself to be an eternal optimist, failed on each attempt. So optimism isn't enough, but happily we have much more. INEOS have brought together the courage, skills and endeavour of Ben and the crew, along with all the cutting-edge technology, relentless dedication and ingenuity of those who have designed and built this phenomenal boat. Together, they can bring the America's Cup home for the very first time. What an incredible British achievement that would be, and it would demonstrate to people around the world that there need be no limits to what can be achieved when you're determined to succeed. I name this boat Britannia. May God bless her and all who sail in her.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elaine. Right, Laura, let's do this. Got the Nye Timber, bit of shameless product placement there. Thanks, Nye Timber. Right. Come on, you okay? Where we go?
Hey!
Get a hose down. Well done.
3 cheers for Britannia! Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hip hip!
Hooray!
Hip hip!
Hooray! Very good. Thank you. We've got Laura taking this on in front of everyone and getting this boat launched for us. We've got Vivi and Bellatrix here. We've got some flowers for you. Come on, go. There we go. There we go. This is Bellatrix, my daughter. Okay. Well done. Well done. Hey, Vivi. Hey, Vivi. Well done. Can you give those to Laura?
Thank you. Yeah. Sweetheart, they're lovely.
Where do you want me to
Thank you. Lovely.
Yeah, okay. Can I turn around?
Always works well with 4-year-olds. Perfect. Thank you, girls. Well done. Great. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
That actually works surprisingly well. I can't believe it. Well done, Bellatrix, darling. Well done, Vivi. Good job, girls. Really good job. So now the talking almost stops and the sailing almost starts. We're going to lower Britannia into the water, and in a matter of days, the crew of 11, including Ben, the skipper, will be putting her through her paces and trying to master this boat in around about 60 days before the first race event, the Christmas regatta, starts on December the 17th. It's going to be testing times, but we like putting ourselves under pressure. And as they say in sport, pressure is a privilege. So we look forward to seeing you for our race shows that start on December the 17th. And in the meantime, we'll see you next time. So we're almost there then. Britannia lowering into the water as I speak. About to touch down into the water and begin what will be a really grueling and testing time for this team as we build up to the first regatta, the Christmas regatta on December the 17th. We can't wait, though. It's been such a long time coming, this moment. And as you can see, she looks, as Ben said, like a bit of a rocket. So let's hope she sails just like one. 11 crew on board, including Ben, the skipper, of course, who'll be putting her through her paces. 60 days, as I say, to go to learn how to sail her and master her before the team line up against their opposition for the first time on December the 17th for that America's Cup World Series event. So far, of course, this America's Cup campaign has thrown up some pretty unprecedented challenges. The backdrop, as Ben said, of COVID-19 has, like for so many places, all sorts of restrictions, all sorts of rules, all sorts of hurdles on the team that they've had to overcome. But they've done just that, and they've faced that challenge head on, and they are ready for whatever is going to come next. Don't forget, of course, you can join us, I should say, for our Inside Tack shows during all the race action that we're going to be having from December the 17th. That's via our social media channels that we have in INEOSTeamUK.com, our Facebook page, or of course you can watch all the action on YouTube, where we're going to have Ben's Take daily in a regular show, and we'll catch up with others in the team too as the drama unfolds. 170 years of hurt, that is how long it's been. You know, the footballers think that they've got it bad with 50 years of hurt, but we've got 170 years of hurt to undo as far as the America's Cup is concerned. First started back in 1851 with a race around the Isle of Wight. The Americans came over, they took the cup from us, took it back home to America, and ever since then we have been trying valiantly but unsuccessfully to win it back. Ben had his first attempt, of course, with his own first team a while ago. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make it, but this time we do feel much, much better prepared. This INEOS Team UK outfit has really gone for it in terms of the design of the boat, as Nick was telling you. It's taken 90,000 design hours to create this thing. and also 46,000 construction hours to get her to look just like this. You heard from Andy McLean earlier on. He was talking about the innards of that boat. 18,000 individual parts have gone into this design as well, and that is a painstaking task to make sure the systems are exactly where they need to be. Reliability is going to be a key thing during this America's Cup adventure, and the team really, if they're able to perform to the best of their abilities, they have to rely on a boat that is going to go exactly as they want it to go. So we've got quite a few hours to go before the first of those race events in the America's Cup World Series. So we're gearing up for that one. But like I say, not long really in many ways to actually master a boat like this. Britannia's her name. She looks like a rocket. Let's hope she goes like a rocket, as Ben said. And we're really looking forward to seeing her out on the water. As Grant said to you earlier on, it may be Tuesday, Wednesday, where we get to see her sail for the first time. I'm sure the spies will be out. I'm sure there's a few of them out at the minute just watching what we are doing from the various other teams. Certainly espionage, a big part of this Cup campaign. And one of the things that probably defines it as a sport, because you can read quite a lot into what people are doing. And I'm sure the spies will be out tracking us early next week as we put this boat, or start to put this boat through her paces out on the Auckland harbour. So plenty to look forward to. Oh, here we go. American Magic just creeping in here to have a little bit of a look at what's going on. And I can see the New Zealanders as well in our sights. So as I say, espionage a big part of this, and we've been doing our own bit of spying as well, as other teams might expect. That's just all part of it. I once spoke to a former winner of the America's Cup who said to me, spying and money and all the things that go into being a great sporting team are what are going to win this thing for you. So let's hope we have all those components in place, and we can actually turn this thing into a success story. We really hope we can, of course, bring that cup home in end of March, early April. Speaking of what comes next as well, I think Freddie has hopped, skipped and jumped his way up into the studio, as is customary of Freddie Carr, to answer more of your questions. And Freddie, give you an inch and you take a mile. Do not get too comfortable up there.
I'm not sure if it was a hop, skip and a jump, to be honest. It was more of a wobble up the stairs. But that's very kind of you to say that I'm still that agile, Georgie. I'm joined by two of our sailors up here. Richard Mason, one of our younger guys, a trimmer on board, and Lee McMillan, the pilot. So, guys, I mean, Richard, pretty cool boat launch, to be honest. What a cool looking boat.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the boat finally get in the water, having kind of worked on it for weeks, and everyone's put such huge effort in to get it to this point. Yeah, just amazing to see the thing floats, and can't wait to get out on it.
And you were just saying we've been working on this boat at Carrington Boats over in Hythe in Southampton for close on sort of 9 months, and it's been with us in Portsmouth for a while. And you came up and said, oh my God, how sick does that boat look when you look down the bow? So even though we've been working on it for that long, you're still picking out new angles and seeing new sides of it that you've not seen before.
Yeah, it definitely looks different from every single angle. It's like no yacht I've seen before, so I just can't wait to get out and sail it.
And it looks fast, right?
Oh, it's fast as a rocket ship.
If it looks fast, it's going to be fast. That's the rule. And Richard, quite a journey for you to come to Auckland to get involved in this America's Cup. You're often asked, how did you get into America's Cup sailing? What was your journey? And I think that question's really, really prevalent to you through the Olympic scheme. And you were kind of, in my eyes, one of the first young British guys who went foiling full time. And how did you end up here with INEOS Team UK?
Yeah, so it's great. So I was quite late to the team. I've been with the team for about 2 months, but before that I was, like you say, Olympic stuff, 49ers, and then I moved into the GC32 and went foiling with that for a bit. I did some offshore stuff, did a bit of everything, to be honest, but this has always been, the goal, and this is the pinnacle of sailing, in my opinion, and so it's great to finally be here.
And I've got to ask you, I remember your first day sailing with us in Cowes in Portsmouth in July. That's a pretty big day when when Graham Spence and Nick Hutton read you through the playbook and said, right, Richard, this is how you sail an AC-72. You got all that? And I remember you going, yeah, it seems fine. And then we push you off the dock and off you go. How was that day, mate?
It was quite the whirlwind, to be honest, because I got the call from Ben, I think 2 days before. The next day I was in work in Portsmouth, and the day after that I was stepping on the yacht for the first time. So yeah, it's incredible. I mean, luckily the position that I've got is probably the only regular boat position. Like, there's a winch and a sheet.
That's like your creature comforts, right?
It felt familiar to me.
If you can hold a rope, then you feel like you're sailing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably about the only guy on the boat that holds a rope, to be fair, doing normal sailing.
Yeah.
Lee, we grew up going through the British Laser team together, and somehow I've turned out to be a grinder, and you've turned out to be a pilot. Now, I think that your job title is infinitely cooler than my job title. How's that happened, mate? How are you a pilot and I'm just a grinder?
It's got to be the size difference. Has got to be something to do with it. I'm not very good at turning handles, that's for sure.
I think it might be to do with a bit of skill, to be honest. But that's very kind of you to say size difference. Are you saying I'm big or you're small?
I'm small. That's what the jokes say every day.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And mate, I mean, pilot. It's a bit of a new word to us in sailing. We saw a bit of it in Bermuda. We saw the helmsman piloting the boat. But very much in this America's Cup cycle, there is, from what we've seen across all the teams, there is going to be pilots on board the boat. What is a pilot? What do you do?
Yeah, like you said, in Bermuda, it was, it was kind of like the big phase of development kind of happened in that world where naturally the helms have had the best feel for the boat and where it's going to be at and trying to predict what's going to happen next. And over the years, that's kind of been offloaded onto a pilot or an additional kind of, assist, as it were. And ultimately, it's just you're responsible for flying the boat, controlling the foils and trying to get the boat into its optimal position. Once the boat's out of the water, the draggiest part of the boat are the foils. So you've got to do everything you can to get those foils in as high and as close to the surface as possible, but without having any kind of catastrophe. So it's it's a big unknown world in some respects, but we've obviously done a lot of training and a lot of development to try and get it as good as possible.
And you're constantly talking to the trimmers, the mainsail trimmer and Ben, and you're kind of massively involved in that speed loop, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone kind of impacts on each other. You know, the helm, the wing trimmer and the pilot, they all affect each other. So if one person is slightly out from an optimal position, it affects the other person, and so etc. And it can be a really dangerous kind of downward spiral if none of you are kind of really kind of dialed into your position. So, you know, you spend a lot of time trying to kind of get on the same page, and you know, there's times when you have to give each other a little bit of freedom to get the boat locked in, and there's times when, you know, the boat's fully singing and dialed in and you're all kind of fully locked in, and there's very little that needs to be said. So a bit like what Ben touched on earlier, it's, you know, kind of getting that equilibrium, and that's what we're going to be working really hard on continuing to develop in the next 2 months.
And Lee, what I find fascinating about your role is America's Cup is frequently said to be the Formula One of sailing. And we all know in Formula One you have your engineer sitting on the pit wall constantly talking to the driver. Now, in my opinion, that's you. You've got constant feedback off our guys in our design rib. There's a constant dialogue going between you and Will Bakewell and you and Robbie Wilson about what the foils are doing underwater. Has that taken some time to get used to that style?
Definitely. I mean, and also as we develop everything behind, you know, the control system and just, you know, trying to get the boat into its most stable and most accurate flight position, you know, there's a huge amount of scrutiny and, you know, research and development that has to go behind that. So, you know, trying to kind of establish that communication on the fly at 40 knots can be pretty tricky. It's also quite hard because you don't, you know, there's so much stuff to work on on other parts of the boat as well. So you don't want to be, you know, kind of like dominating the day with that kind of communication and stuff. So, you know, sometimes there's really important stuff that you need to get dialed in, you know, very quickly, and other times it can kind of wait till the end of the day. So it's just kind of, you know, building that understanding of what's important at the time and what can wait, and kind of having that dialogue with the guys when everything's whistling around your ears and there's water kind of coming over the boat. And it can be pretty full on at times. But it's it's certainly taken from my position has taken an exciting development over the last kind of couple of years for sure.
Very good. Right, we've got some questions, as Georgie did earlier, from some people that have emailed and tweeted in. And we've got a question from Alex Kelly, Richard. And the question is, with how kind of high-tech sailing has got now, how important is competitive mindset and kind of that mental strength? We saw in the America's Cup in 2013 when there was plenty of mind games going on in the press conferences that saw the biggest swing in sports history. Do you think that's still as prevalent today in these high-tech boats?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the amazing thing about the America's Cup is that every single area of the sport is being elevated all the time, We talk about the boat and the technology and the software and, things that you're doing that have never been done before, software-wise and boat-wise, and that the same thing, the same vein goes through all the physicality, Guys are training harder, the mental stage's got to be better. The game's being raised all the time by all the other teams, and, we've got to be at the cutting edge of that.
Very good. Good answer. I like that. It's still a sport at its heart, isn't it?
Sport.
It's all about the minerals. It's all about the minerals. Lee, we got a question off Mark Gregory. How do you think RB2, the boat that we've just launched to race, will compare to RB1?
I mean, visually, it's obviously a massive step difference. And, that comes with some kind of fundamental differences. The form stability of the boat's quite different. So, slow speed maneuvering becomes more difficult. That initial stage of an acceleration is more tricky. But we're expecting some pretty big improvements. Nick Holroyd touched on it. The aerodynamic performance of the hull is quite a big improvement. The accelerations through the mid-range of the accelerate to takeoffs is going to be a huge step forward. So, there's some clear step forward, and internally inside the boat as well, and all the grinding kind of positions. There's it's a complete workup. RB1, we were on the back foot really kind of designing and getting that up and ready to be able to kind of develop on it. And RB2, we had a chance to really kind of push the boat out. Use the simulations, test other teams' boats on the simulators. There was all these things that we were able to look into before kind of making that decision. So it was, it was a very exciting process, and it's great to see it out on the water.
So we've got a very special question here from someone within our INEOS Sports family, Elid Kipchoge. Thank you for tuning in. As you all know, the first man to run a marathon in under 2 hours. And so thank you for your support. And his question is how do we motivate ourselves as a team, like within the training on the water with the long hours ahead, Richard?
Interesting question coming from that guy who needs a bit of motivation himself.
I was going to say, I mean, watching him go under 2 hours was genuinely one of the coolest things I've ever seen in sport.
Unbelievable. How do we get motivated? There's always the America's Cup just sat there waiting to be taken. I don't think you need much more motivation than wanting to win that thing. The other teams are pushing so hard, we've got to go a bit harder.
And I touched on it. We're under the INEOS Sports umbrella in the INEOS family, and we only have to look around at our contemporaries in the cycling team and Elid and the other things that are going on within the wider sports group. It's pretty cool to be under that umbrella, right?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think we've been lucky enough to share some of the technologies and some of the personnel with some of those other teams, which I think's really added to our team as well, and hopefully we've helped them in some little way, I don't know. But it's been fantastic to be part of that larger family.
And, I know our head of human performance, Ben Williams, for example, has had good dialogue within the cycling team, and we've shared training strategies that actually really helped us during lockdown. The training during lockdown was quite something, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a step up, wasn't it? But nice to have something to do, I suppose, but some hours.
Right, Lee, here's the $1 million question. We've got a question from Phil McDonald. How fast are we going to go, mate? How quick is that thing going to go?
Well, in the barways and the reaches, you're going to see over 50 knots. So it's going to be pretty fast. And upwind speeds are going to be over 30 knots, and downwind speeds, in the mid 40s, high 40s. So, it's a rapid boat, and it's going to be really exciting to see it line up against the other teams.
And is it going to be about top-end speed, or is it going to be about acceleration, or is it a combination of the two? What do you think?
Well, that is actually a good question. It's actually a really challenging thing to get right, because we are constrained by boundaries. So, you know, we're racing in a box and we're racing in a course length, which is restricted as well. So that just throws in a lot of manoeuvres, a lot of fairways, roundups, a lot of tacks and a lot of jibes. So it's not just about top-end speed. You've got to be good in manoeuvres. The boat's got to be good to accelerate. It's not just about being fast. It's your true wind angles. If you can get them higher upwind, lower downwind for good boat speeds, you know, it means you have to do less manoeuvres. So
quite a lot about moding the boat, the ability to mode the boat.
Yeah, and so actually when you're designing the boat, having those in mind is very important. It's not just about what's, you know, spat out by the computer as being the fastest boat in a straight line. You've got to take into account all those considerations. And so that's where it gets very tricky and it becomes more of a bit of a dark art and kind of having those discussions and coming to a happy medium.
So we got a question from Chris Pocket from Renshaw, one of our technical partners. And Lee, this is a great question for you because you're one of our king's spies, right? You're really, really sneaky and you know a lot about the other teams, you know, and you feed that into the designer. And you're basically like the James Bond of INEOS Team UK, I like to think. How much do we know about the other teams? How much can we kind of look at their boat and actually learn? You're obviously out there taking videos and photos all day, but does that kind of aid our design? And how do we learn off the pictures you're out there taking?
Definitely, especially you know, when we were in the big development phase of the campaign. So over the last year, when all the teams launched their boats, there was a huge emphasis on getting, you know, the information, the pictures of the foils and the hulls, and looking at that in our system and making comparisons. And that doesn't stop. The things that you can't see is, like you said earlier, everything under the bonnet, kind of in animals world, systems world, software world. It's all, you know, that's kind of the dark arts really, and you kind of trying to make judgments on how the boats are flying and performing, and you know how they're controlling their boat to kind of look at that. But you know, the hardware that's kind of obvious for there to see. We spend a lot of time looking and kind of, you know, kind of drawing up on our own kind of systems and kind of comparing it, and that is a huge, you know, a huge kind of aid for us, and just making those comparisons and knowing, you know, kind of where other teams are heading in their kind of with their ethoses as well.
Very good. And the last question to you, Lee, or Uncle Skinny, as you're known to my kids, is from Mason, my nipper, who I know you enjoyed watching the Rugby World Cup semi-final with last year, and you enjoyed watching the Cricket World Cup final with as well. 2 cracking days in sport last year. And he says, Skinny, if we win the America's Cup, can you bring it back to our house and we'll have a good old knees up?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, going out against the Kiwis here, I guess it's, yeah. And the Rugby World Cup and the Cricket World Cup were 2 massive games. I mean, you know, I get excited about sport. I was running around in that semi-final, running around Canberra like a lunatic. It was quite embarrassing, to be honest. But, you know, I guess we've just got to do this, finish it off here.
Two great days in sport, mate, and I'm sure we've got many great days here, right, lads? We've got a busy day ahead, haven't we? Putting her through her paces. We're gonna put the mast in and go for a bit of a tow around and have a bit of fun. It's been a fantastic launch here. It's always such a privilege when you're in the America's Cup community to launch these race boats, and we're going to give it everything we've got here in Auckland over the next 2 months, building up the boat to the Christmas regatta and beyond. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'd better go and get our wetsuits on and go and see what you can do. Join us next time on the Inside Tack.